that'll escalate to World War III. But they went ahead and violated their own RAND Corporation threat escalation boards. So see, your money's not going to be worth anything in your golf course stock options if we have World War III cuckoo. And now China is messing with India. India's got aircraft carriers out there about to go to war. Pakistan.
We are marching our way to World War III. I am increasingly worried that there are people in the United States rooting for it.
And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
So I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran what I would do. I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries in Iran. They're fixed targets. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, I would make Iran pay a heavy price.
Made it clear to the Iranians, be careful.
Hamas's backer, Iran, today blamed the United States for what's happening in Gaza. Pro-Iranian militias have already carried out probing attacks against U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq. Today, Hezbollah in Lebanon released this ominous photograph of the group's shadowy leader meeting with senior members of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in front of a photograph of Iran's supreme leader. President Biden had a message for him.
My warning to the Ayatollah was that if they continue to move against those troops, we will respond, and he should be prepared.
If Israel goes into the Gaza Strip, the fire will spread. Well, by the way, if they really want to threaten the United States, listen, we don't want war with Iran because it costs time and resources and money and people. We don't want any of that. But let's just be clear about this. If Iran started up with the United States, that war would be over in about a millisecond. The United States military is not to be trifled with. And the fact that you have these tin pot morons who are out there threatening the United States is deeply insulting and speaks to the weakness that they perceive in the American body politic and among our political class. Here's Iran's foreign minister.
Today in New York and the United Nations, I say frankly to the American statesmen who are now managing the genocide in Palestine that we do not welcome to expansion of the war in the region. But I warn, if the genocide in Gaza continues, they will not be spared from this fire. It is our home, and West Asia is our region.
West Asia is their region. They own it. Leave it alone. By that, they mean presumably they also want the destruction of the state of Israel. Well, as it turns out, Iran has now been targeting Americans throughout the Middle East. In fact, over the course of the last few weeks, there have been double-digit strikes on American facilities by Iranian proxy groups.
Down here, we could be walking into World War III in the matter of weeks. Israel. This situation is getting out of control with Israel and Gaza.
The U.S. military launched airstrikes on 2 locations in eastern Syria.
The United States has launched airstrikes against Iran-backed forces in eastern Syria.
For example, U.S. President Joe Biden ordered fighter jet strikes in eastern Syria Thursday.
The American military has launched airstrikes on 2 locations in eastern Syria, and that was at the request of President Joe Biden.
Literally 1 hour ago, targeting facilities used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
The U.S. Department of Defense said these strikes were retaliation for attacks on U.S. forces.
These Iranian-backed attacks against U.S. forces are unacceptable and must stop. That's a statement there from the Secretary of Defense in the United States, Lloyd J. Austin.
These narrowly tailored strikes were in self-defense, were intended solely to protect and defend the U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria. I mean, you form your own opinion on that.
The president said that if Iran or its proxies attacked U.S. troops, that we would respond. So what is he waiting for exactly?
He did say that.
Where's the response?
He said that. And he said that we will...
Repeating the warning is the response?
Jackie, come on now.
not his question.
I'm not going to telegraph punches here from the podium. We have responded and retaliated in the past, quite aggressively, in fact, back in March. And as the president said, we will not hesitate to protect our troops and our facilities, but we're going to do it at a time of our choosing, in a manner of our choosing. And the decision to do it, if we do it, is his as commander-in-chief and his alone.
Well, by the way, if they really want to threaten the United States, listen, we don't want war with Iran because it costs time and resources and money and people. We don't want any of that. But let's just be clear about this. If Iran started up with the United States, that war would be over in about a millisecond. The United States military is not to be trifled with. And the fact that you have these tin pot morons who are out there threatening the United States is deeply insulting and speaks to the weakness that they perceive when the rubber is going to meet the road. That's going to be if Israel goes into Gaza, which presumably will happen over the course of the next week or so by all available information. When Israel goes into the Gaza Strip, if Hezbollah opens up a second front on the Israeli border, will the United States stop Hezbollah from doing that? Because Hezbollah is an existential danger to the state of Israel. It's not just that they have 200,000 rockets pointed at various sites around Israel, threatening tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Israeli lives. They also have terror tunnels that presumably strike into Israel as well. They have sleeper cells that they've been working with in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. If the United States wishes to keep that conflict contained, the United States is going to have to get directly involved probably at that point, because if they don't, then Israel's going to go whole hog. It's either going to be the United States containing the thing, or it's going to be Israel just devastating its opposition and maybe bringing in Iran, which then may go regional. That right there is the biggest problem.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.